Hey, welcome back to the channel, my fellow weather junkies. I'm your host, Greg Majeski, your personal weatherman here, bringing you the weather without all that social media hype here on your Thanksgiving. Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, November 28th, 2024. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we're tracking here for today as we're talking about some cold weather in the east and milder conditions expected in the west. We'll talk about how long we think that's going to be sticking around. We're also going to be talking about the lake effect snow machine. Yeah, it's definitely going to be on and maybe on for an extended period. So we'll be looking at some of those snow totals across the Great Lakes. And then finally, we're going to be talking about the overall weather pattern, which looks like it's going to be a bit on the dry side across the country, which may contribute to some of the drought conditions that we're seeing across the country. Now, before we get into all that, first, I do want to thank the new subscribers to the channel. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, what you waiting for? Come on, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell so you're alerted on future content. And as always, if you got a comment, please leave it down below. Give me a thumbs up. It does help with the almighty YouTube algorithm. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at those dry conditions across the country. We're talking about drought conditions here, and I wanted to start off with this to show how much of the country is seeing dry weather. We're going to get this map updated today, but it looks like we're going to be continuing to maybe add to this as we go through the first couple of weeks of December, which is a little bit unusual as the storm track's just not going to allow any real precipitation to kind of fall across the country. Now, as we look at what's going on this morning, we do have a pretty decent storm system here coming into the northeast. We have some thunderstorms across the southeast portion of the United States, but most of the nation not looking too bad here from coast to coast, except for this exiting storm system, which is going to be dumping some pretty decent snows across the northeast. In fact, we do have those winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories up there into the northeast, some cold pockets down here with some freeze watches across Texas and into portions of the Carolinas. Some areas down here in the deep south that haven't even seen their first freeze yet. Kind of late for that, but we are going to be seeing that little fog down there into parts of Florida and out here into California. All right, let's talk about the airport delays right now. Nothing out there just yet. We might see some out in some of the big airports out there into the northeast for today, especially with that rain and some of that snows coming into that area. So you may see some airport delays up there. Just watch out for that for later today. Here's our surface map. Again, we're spreading some snows here across Pennsylvania, going through New York. Could see some pretty decent snows there for the interior sections there. And then the cold air will be sweeping it across the Great Lakes. That's going to pick up that moisture off those relatively warm waters of the Great Lakes and dump it on the leeward side. And like I said, we're going to be measuring that pretty much in feet as we go forward. Looking at the morning here, we're looking at some thunderstorms here across the south. And as this line presses in through Georgia and through the southeast, there's going to be some marginal risk from some severe weather there. So we might see an isolated severe thunderstorm or two as this progresses out of Alabama into Georgia and into the Carolinas for today. So in fact, let's go ahead and take a look at the latest from the Storms Prediction Center as we will talk and break this down here for today. So let's go ahead and talk about this as we're looking at, again, just a marginal risk here. So we're talking about as that front starts to clear, we're talking about the Carolinas stretching back here through Alabama and through the Florida Panhandle. That's our target zone here for today for potential severe weather. Now that does include a possibility for maybe some isolated tornadoes, but it's going to be running pretty bit low. We'll go ahead and break this down by the category. Here is your tornado risk, again, running about 2% in this area. This will also be the same area that we're looking at the high wind threat. Maybe it winds to 55, 60 miles per hour in the same zone, generally covering where that marginal risk for severe weather is for today. Now, as that front sinks further south, we'll see just a general thunderstorm threat down across portions of central Florida. But after that, there's nothing showing on the day three. In fact, I'll show you the day three showing no thunderstorms are expected once that system begins to go on by. Another thing we're not going to be seeing a lot of here over the next couple of weeks is for sure excessive rainfall forecast. I ain't going to worry about any kind of flooding potential issues there. Remember, we've been dealing with that, especially a lot out on the West Coast. So we're going to get some good news there with no expected rainfall being a problem there over the next 3 days. Now, as far as your hazards outlook is concerned, we do have a couple of pockets that we're kind of watching right here. Obviously, we got the cold weather, the freezing conditions here across the southeast. This is for basically your Great Lakes, heavy snows that are going to be dumping up in their area. And then, of course, the Dakotas, we're talking about temperatures up this way below zero. So those are some of the hazard areas that we're talking about here over the next 3 to 7 days from your hazards outlook forecast. Now, as far as what your short-term forecast is looking like, let's go ahead and look at that here for today. Again, here on your Thanksgiving Day, we're going to be dealing with this storm system out here into the northeast. So we're going to see some pretty decent interior snows there. We got some thunderstorms here across the southeast, but most of the nation here, most of the west looking very quiet indeed. Not bad at all for folks who are celebrating Thanksgiving Day holiday with their families. So as we progress this through the day, again, we'll see the storm system go through the northeast. Again, anybody traveling may have some delays up that way, but this will move on through as we go into for tonight. And we're just going to be looking at some plain old cold air. I mean, some very, very cold air here blowing across the Great Lakes. That's going to turn on those heavy snows here on the leeward side of those lakes that are going to be seeing that heavy snow start to pile up, especially where they get the, start lining up and start training over that same area as that wind direction blows across that warmer waters. And that'll stay on right through into Friday as well. So no major storm systems here going into Friday or Saturday, just outside of those heavy lake effect snows there across areas of the Great Lakes and into the Northeast, like New York and Pennsylvania and areas like that. But that's what we're seeing here on your short-term forecast here on your high-resolution model. Now let's go ahead and talk about the storm systems here. As we're going to be looking at, I'm looking at showing you the pressure anomaly map, where the blues, that's where your storm systems are. The yellows and the reds, that's your higher pressure here. So here's our exiting storm system here across the northeast that we're going to see. But what you're going to see across most of the nation is a lot of that yellow coming in here. That's indicative of high pressure, and that means no major storm systems coming in here for a prolonged amount of time. That means no chances of rain. So that's why we're going to see this prolonged dry period here as we go into the first portions of December. Now what this means is that the country is going to be basically split in half. You can almost split it in half right through here. This portion will see the cold air. Out here in the west, we'll see things begin to modify, and they'll see temperatures running above average for this time of year for those locations. Now, we do have one storm system coming across the Great Lakes as we head toward Wednesday, December the 4th here. You're seeing this system here that'll be quickly rotating on out here toward the east, but we're not going to be tapping any real moisture here. Now, as we go into later in the week, we might get another storm system coming in here as we head toward the 6th and into the later periods here that might bring in another storm system. Here's another one coming down here as we head toward the 8th and 9th. This is a pretty robust one here. Might grab a little additional Gulf moisture with this one, and that may dump some rains into the southeast. But again, the trend overall is for these continuing shots to continue to rotate here out of Canada into the east and staying kind of relatively mild here out here in the west. We're just not going to get it. Storm tracks are going up like this, so we're not getting out here on the west coast. So California up toward Washington State are going to be continue to stay dry for the most part as we head in toward the middle of December. Now let's go ahead and look at your precipitation here as we say goodbye to that one storm system exiting off toward the northeast. Again, we're seeing that freezing line here as we go through the weekend, staying pretty far south here. I'll go ahead and stop it here on your Sunday morning, for example, here. Again, this is what we call our freezing line, 540. Typically north of that line, that's where you're going to see your winter precipitation. South of that's going to be obviously regular rain. But for right now, we're not seeing anything other than the fact that we've got these lake effect snows that are turned on. It's going to stay pretty much on the dry side and just plain old cold for a lot of the nation here as we go into the new work week here. Got a little bit of rain down here across portions of South Texas. That's about it. And again, just looking at that cold air continuing to blow in over the Great Lakes, a little disturbance kind of riding in across the Great Lakes, just reinforcing that cold air that's in place. And then we got another shot coming down here as we head toward the 6th and 7th. Got a little bit of light rain here across the southeast, but really, again, not much to talk about here as another cold shot comes on down here going into the 6th of December. That moves on off, and we still got the little bit of rain there in Texas. But again, no major storm systems here going on. Then we finally tap some moisture coming up out of another shot. So we finally get some rains here across the south central portion of the United States from Missouri down into Louisiana as we've got a little bit of energy coming in here a little bit further west than what some of these previous colder shots are going to be. So a little more of the middle portion of the country getting in on some of the cold air there as this comes on through. And you'll see some rains here coming through the southeast. Again, this is the extended out projection here going about 300 hours. So we're just kind of looking at trends. But the trend here, what we're seeing is these progressively cold shots that continue to come across pretty much the eastern half of the country, staying relatively mild out in the west. And I'll tell you right now, as far as the west coast is concerned, they've got a big old STOP. It is a big old stop sign out there right now. Not going to see anything out there as far as precipitation or any major storm systems. At least right now it's showing right through the 12th of the month. Now let's talk about the precipitation again. You're going to see what I'm talking about. I'm going to go out about 10 days here on the precipitation out. I'm going to go out to about 240 here. So we're going to go out, take it out to 240 here, and you'll see where most of the precipitation is going to be falling here. Again, we got a little bit of rain down here across the Texas Gulf Coast. Look how high these totals are across the Great Lakes, and a lot of this falling here across New England is with the exiting storm system now. But the majority of the country is looking at either no rainfall, like you're seeing out here in the west, or basically less than a ½ inch of rain. So a very extended dry period of rain here over the next 10 days as we go into the month of December. Now let's talk about snowfall totals. Of course, we got some pretty decent totals here. As the storm system exits up here through New England, we're going to see the interior sections anywhere, I'd say, from 8 to 12 inches here across the interior section. So we're talking about Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, a very snowy Thanksgiving Day into your Friday there. Now, the one thing you're going to definitely notice is the fact that we've got these plumes here off Lake Erie, Lake Ontario, and all these other Great Lakes here that are going to be seeing significant rain. I mean, this one here showing 45 inches there of snow near Erie, Pennsylvania, for example. So it's going to be quite snowy in those zones. In fact, we'll take out the look at the whole Great Lakes here, and every single one of them are showing a significant snows here across all the big lakes. Michigan, on the leeward side, Superior, all getting in on the heavy snow action there over the next 10 days as that cold air continues to blow over those waters. We'll talk about the temperature anomaly map here as we take a look at this. Again, as we go forward here, we got most of the eastern third of the country here. All Thanksgiving is going to be pretty much below average here for most of that region, with that cold air settling on in. Now go right into the new work week here, as that'll stay that way. You're going to notice things begin to modify here out in the west. You notice you're seeing a little more of that reds out here, just a little bit. There's a little bit milder out there, and that'll continue to be the trend here for the most part as we go through this forecast here. Again, got the cold shot there going on. We get another one here. Here comes another one. This coming in toward the 5th and 6th, coming here across Great Lakes, and this will be coming in across there. So you get maybe a brief milder day there across the southeast before it settles on down to the south. Here we go again, going in toward the 7th. But notice we definitely cutting the country in half here. Milder here in the west, and we're staying cold here in the east as we go through the 7th. Then we're going to see the flow get a little more zonal here briefly as this cold air sits in for a few days, and then kind of modifies it a little bit. Looks like we get a little bit of a break here a little bit. Then another cold shot comes down. Boom, here goes. Coming right down there as we head toward the 11th and 12th, and then that comes into the eastern third of the United States again. So as we go through the 13th. So let's go ahead and look at the Climate Prediction Center. I think they're pretty much going to show what we're seeing here in the models. Haven't been real big changes here. So let's go talk about that as we're looking at your 6 to 10 day outlook. As again, we're taking the country, splitting it right in half. Colder here in the east. We're looking warmer here in the west. Again, this is for December 3rd through the 7th. And it doesn't really change that much. 5 to the 11th, again, colder here in the east, milder here in the west. And that looks like that trend is going to continue at least probably, we'll say, to about the 13th or 14th. We'll see how it goes. But definitely for ski lovers and stuff, we're not going to get any additional snows out here in the west. That's for sure as we go through the middle of the month. Now, as far as, again, precipitation, again, dry here in the middle of the country. It's showing a little more rain here across portions of Texas. We saw that a few times there. Maybe here right along the northern tier of the United States across from Canada a little bit. And again, going from the 5th to the 11th, dry from the northeast all the way out to the west coast. We just don't have the storm track that's tracking across the country right now to bring us any real significant chance of rain. We're not tapping any Gulf of Mexico moisture in here. So continue with that dry weather pattern here as we go, at least through the middle of December. Just plain old cold, that's for sure. We're going to have plenty of that, but it's definitely going to be a bit on the nippy side for the eastern third of the United States, which is their due. Let's just be honest. It was pretty much a very mild fall for a lot of the eastern half of the United States, and the folks out west who've been pretty much running below normal for most of the fall, they're going to at least get a chance and get a break there. So I do want to extend my first happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there on this Thanksgiving morning. I am getting ready to put my turkey in the oven here and get ready to get cooking and have family and stuff for today. So I want to extend my best to all you out there. Now, if you'd like to have this feature in your YouTube feed on a regular basis, all you got to do is hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you're alerted on future content. And as always, I do appreciate any feedback you may have. If there's something you'd like to see in this report, please just post it down below. And again, give me a thumbs up. I do appreciate it. All right, that's your update here on your Thanksgiving. You guys take it easy. Be good, stay safe, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.